talk to you about two constituencies that a lot of people have been focused on. One, of course, is the big startup ecosystem, where we have seen significant gains being made. There has been plenty of disruption, but as you yourself pointed out, the risk is the lack of cash flows and sustainability and viability in the long term. We've also seen a flight towards being able to raise money through the IPO market, and we saw that process happen. The regulator has now come down hard, saying there needs to be adequate disclosure or strengthening the disclosure process. How do you see this landscape building itself out? What more do you believe needs to be done there from a risk mitigation point of view?
So we're talking of the new course, right?
Yes.
We're talking
yes.
new course. I think the basic requirement there is that there should be a cash flow. Now, I don't know whether the regulator is going to insist on that, but the investor needs to be, our investor is a very smart investor. So we have seen what has happened with the first, say, half a dozen listings. And I think it would be a brave company going out there with, without a cash flow which is positive. The reason is very simple. Because you've got one shot at it, and this investor is not going to come back and give you any more sustenance. So you better be prepared to either have your original VE partner fund ad infinitum or to hit a wall. So I'm being brutally frank, but that's how it's going to be. So you better weigh, so it's like self-discipline in making sure that you are ready to hit the market so that, and you keep running and don't then falter. So I think this lesson has been learned very well.
Yes, I think a lot of people are learning or relearning that lesson as well at this point in time. One of the other aspects that you brought up, and you gave a forecast. You said you wouldn't give one, but you did eventually end up giving one, where you said that you believe the single currency hegemony is likely to be sort of disrupted over the next 12 to 18 months on the back of the fact that we are now seeing bilateral arrangements being worked out, whether it's the rupee ruble mechanism or many others. You see that this transition happening as swiftly as the next 12 to 18 months?
What I mean is that it will gather momentum, and you will see the impact of that moment. The impact of the momentum is that alternative patterns will emerge, and alternative settlement mechanisms could emerge, and thereafter netting out could happen, and the surpluses will be held in a, I would say, a more distributed manner in terms of asset classes and currency classes and so on. This is natural evolution. It's natural evolution because you have two large developing economies now coming to the fore. And then you got, if you look at the entire BRICS, the entire sort of BRICS countries coming to the fore. So I think this is the natural evolution. And I don't see anything wrong. It is natural. Not many people know that BRICS also have something called the BRICS contingency measure, which is they have put in place, which if you go and look up, it is called the alternative IMF. So the BRICS countries have set up as long back as 8 years back in 2014. This was set up, well, it's almost 9 years back. The contingency reserve arrangement, which runs in a virtual mode. There are no offices, but ready to go. So there are a lot of steps being taken by the developing countries to make sure that their interests are in a way, they look after their own interests and not necessarily rely on third parties to come and intervene and provide a hand. That hand probably will be welcome, but they have prepared this. So this is all part of that process of change. As developing countries grow, they evolve and so on. And it's a large number of developing countries. The BRICS probably were at the forefront, but we will see larger and larger number of countries coming up and joining in a way since this sort of evolution that is happening.
You've been the perennial India bull, Mr. Kamath, and you continue to be extremely bullish on the India growth story. If I were to ask you to list out some of the key risks that we need to be mindful of, because we are here talking about risk mitigation, what would those key risks be? I mean, the legacy risks have been the infrastructure risk, the execution risk, the inflation risk, and so on and so forth. What would you put on the table today as the key risks that we need to be mindful of?
August leaders here who can answer this question better than I am, including starting with Mr. Jutshi and the practitioners of risk in corporate India. But I would think what is required today is not necessarily, I'm not looking at internally. What I'm looking at is events outside our control hitting us at once. Again, to paraphrase, I think what Bhargav said, several black swan events hitting us together, which we never thought could happen, and have now happened. And I think we are all learning to manage this as we go along. If this wasn't so, we would have been in dire problems. But having said that, the risk that we need to counter is an explosion in energy prices, for example. How do you handle that, and what does it do to your structural balance sheet of the country? I think we need to understand this. And I can say this, that the government and business is running at great speed to try to thwart this risk before it happens. And I would think in 4 or 5 years we would say that, well, that risk is not really as serious as it was, say, in 2023 or prior to that. So I think some of these risks are visible. The rest of it, to me, is external events creating, the apt used phrase, a perfect storm. Other than that, I don't see internally course correction happening or needed.
Okay. So we need to be mindful of the invisible risks, some of the visible risks that you just spoke of. It was very interesting to me to hear you say that you actually were looking at the First Republic Bank balance sheet to see what was going on with line item. How much time do you spend on looking at balance sheets?
No, I look at everything. If I say a name that I need to look at, I look it up on Google immediately. I do a LinkedIn. How long does it take me? It takes me 45 seconds to understand who the person is.
So on an average in a day, how many companies do you look up?
I may look up 4, 5, 6, 7 or more. Whatever is of interest, it could be more than that, I look up. Before not coming here, I was going somewhere else. I looked up 5 balance sheets on money control, so not necessarily a company, to understand, this is in the banking space, to look at what has happened to capital, what has happened to profitability, what is happening to ROE. I was speaking somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I'll do it on the fly. It took me exactly 3 minutes, thanks to money control. Because in any case, you put the
on behalf of all of my colleagues at Money Control, thank you very much. That's wonderful to hear you say that.
The first thing to come up is money control. So I don't even have to scroll down to look at. I click and I get what I want. So.
It's very interesting that you just brought up the banks again, and given the over 5 decades that you've spent there, here's what I want to understand from you. Yes, we've seen a cleanup. Yes, we've seen many changes being brought in. But you just talked about the ROE, and you said we've never seen this kind of metric being delivered by Indian banks. What do you think has been the biggest driver, the biggest change to be able to get to this
very
metric?
Very simple. Very simply, it is the provisions vanishing. So when your quality of book is fine, your credit losses vanish, and that credit loss vanishes, you are breathing deeply. And I think that's what's happening in the Indian banking system. I think everybody is breathing well and healthily, and that's the 20% ROE that we see. Everybody may not get there, but to me that was a wonderful number. And we talked about the Indian banking system and the Western challenges. And I'm not trying to put on anybody, but again, this house may not know it. If you look up the top 20 or 25 banks in the world today, you'll probably find 3 names by market cap. And you will not find a single bank from large parts of the Western world. You'll find a few American banks. You'll find 1 or 2 maybe Australian banks. And you'll find Chinese banks, of course. You'll find Indian banks. You'll find 1 Saudi Arabian bank. That's about it. Then we are hunting for names. There are no names. So why? I think this is basically the understanding, the market's understanding of risk. Where has risk moved, and where is where there is lesser risk, or where things are comfortable and you can breathe easy. And I think we have to take pride in this. I can say this, that 20 years back, it was an aspirational number to be in the top 50 by market cap. And market cap, I don't necessarily mean as something. It is a reflection of your health. That's what I mean. And I think we can be rightly proud of. And I look forward to the day when overall ranking of business, Indian companies are there in the top 25, and that I'm sure will happen in peak order, in large measure, not just 1 or 2.
Yes, and we will look forward to that as well. So let me end by asking you, Mr. Kamath, what has been the riskiest bet that you've taken in your career, and what do you believe is likely to be the riskiest bet that you're yet to take?
Yet to take? At 76? I don't know. No, the riskiest bet I had taken clearly was, I won't even hesitate, was basically repositioning ICICI from a development bank to a retail bank. We had no skills. We said that we will enter a business where we have no skills. And there weren't many practitioners either. There was only one, home finance mortgage company, that was HDFC at that point of time. A couple of global banks were issuing a few credit cards. That's it. To say that we will bet on a pivot to retail, we will bet on introducing technology which no bank had tried globally. When I'll just tell you the sort of bet we took. When we rolled out our credit card platform, I was told that this platform with great difficulty can run on a small box. This is meant for a mainframe. And it can do about 200,000 cards. I have no choice because I can't afford a mainframe. So let's go. And that machine, that software we ran for the next 3 million cards. By then we could develop our own things and so on. So the pivot to retail, I think, was for an institution without any history or experience or people, was a big bet. So what did you bet on? So you must have something to bet on. We bet on our people. So we had a young team, several of them are here, who I said I can bet on, and they will build a future for us. A, and B, we had a board which was very supportive and said that we will go along with the bet. So that was the riskiest. I don't think there's any more risk in what I'm doing now.
A digital bank?
A digital bank? Everything is digital today. Everything is digital today. UPI is digital, and how far we are ahead of on the UPI front is unimaginable. I think people sitting here, we celebrate, but we don't understand. I'll give you a small example. I don't know whether my daughter will like this if she hears it. The last 1 year, she's come 4 times to see me because I said, I'm not traveling. Every time she comes, the first thing she says, Dad, can I have your phone? So first time I didn't understand what it was, and then 4 clicks later, she's done. She gives me back the phone. And then I look at my phone, I get a WhatsApp message, then I get a text message, then I get an email. Well, you know what has happened? She has done a quick purchase from somewhere. She has seen something, and she can't execute this in the US. And she can't do it at that speed in the US, even when she's doing a transaction in the US. Now she wants to do it here, and that phone works. And that is the new India. And that, I think, anybody having a grown-up child here will celebrate that. How do I explain this? That you guys are behind us. And I don't tell, I'm thinking the larger opportunity. And this is the opportunity that India presents. All this has happened seamlessly. And again, I'll just spend one more time on this. And then I saw what and where is this stuff coming from? As I can deduce it, these are small businesses run by individuals. But the whole ecosystem is so beautifully enmeshed. But this is my business sense taking over. That the moment the transaction is gone, a logistics partner is assigned by somebody, not by this individual. That individual has done either the design or the organization of this business. Probably it looks like a mom and pop outfit. The stuff that comes finally comes through a courier. The address is handwritten. The sender's name is handwritten. You would have seen this. I celebrate this because this, even 2 years, 3 years back, was unimaginable that India could do this. But there it is, and India has done it.
So the riskiest bet for KV Kamath today is leaving your phone unsupervised.
No, this is a supervised handover. So.
Mr. Kamath, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, KV Kamath.